Sure.
All right, so we're joined by my man, Dr. Marcus Chaney, COO, president of B1 Healthcare Services here in Jackson, graduate of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Jackson State, multiple spots as an admin at great HBCU institutes of higher learning. We've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. This is our entrepreneurship class. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So we thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Hey, it's great to be here. I look forward to the few minutes that I have to spend with you all. And so I'm ready.
All right, so just give us a little background. Went to Arkansas Pine Bluff, even though this is Jackson State country. You were a Golden Lion, and your degree is was not in what you're doing now. So just give us a little background as far as your education and how that
Sure.
translated into being an entrepreneur now, all these years later.
I'm originally from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I literally grew up on the campus. My mother was a college professor there for 30 plus years. My dad was a graduate. He was in education. So I was actually a third generation graduate of the institution.
Wow.
Um, and so I obtained my degree in mass communications with minors in English and business. My intent when I graduated was to go into the world of work and doing business and communications. But they ended up working for a school district. And where I worked for Helena, West Helena School District, I was hired as
Mhm.
director of public relations. And from there, I went on and decided to get certified as a high school teacher to teach communications, and that sort of started my realm in education. I stayed there probably about 7 years or so, and then I had a great opportunity to come to Jackson State University. And my first job there, I was working with the now it's the College of Lifelong Learning, and
Mhm.
so I stayed with that area about a year and a half, and then I was flipped to Division of Student Affairs, and I started as a director, became dean, became associate
Wow.
VP, then eventually vice president at the
Wow.
institution. So I served as vice president there from 2010 to 2014. And so that was my realm in education. I left JSU in 2014, went to Jarvis Christian University. At that point in time, I was on a pathway of wanting to be a college president. And so I wanted to get a look at private Christian-based schools because that's sort of where I had my ideas set on.
Mhm.
So I went to Jarvis. The president there at that time had been at Mississippi Valley State, which I knew him personally, and so brought me on. Stayed there 4 years. Had a great time. Really enjoyed the small school settings more so than the larger institutions. And then in 18, I had an opportunity. A good friend of mine became president of Lincoln University of Missouri. And so I joined her in 18 and stayed. I was supposed to be there for 2 years, and two turned into three because of COVID. And so at that point in time, I decided to take I'm not going to even say retirement anymore, take a change from what I was doing. And so I came on back to Jackson. Jackson has really been a home to me since I moved here in 2001, even while I was at Jarvis, even while I was at Lincoln. I truly still lived in Jackson. And so started out with my wife. My wife had formalized a couple of companies. One was B1 Nursing Care. It's a home care agency, and she's going into eighth, ninth year with that
Wow.
particular business. She started what started out as B1 Training Center. She started out with two programs, CNA and phlebotomy program.
Wow.
And when I came on board, I kind of used my higher ed background, and we started changing the way we did our delivery for classes. And now we've expanded now to 14 programs, and we did a name change, and our name now is the College of Health Services and Careers. So
Wow.
that has been our two mainstay businesses. We have expanded the business. We have a foundation that is there to assist students in our school, assist them with financing. Um, we have um, we have a nonprofit which is to own and operate independent living facilities and assisted living facilities. So we just kicked that off last year. We have a project that we're working on right now with that. And then, of course, we have a another project that we just, this is from a technical standpoint, that we're looking forward to rolling out, hopefully sometime this year, where we're going to be working with the anti-bullying concept. So we're keeping
Interesting.
that kind of hush hush right now, but again, that's something that we are working on now and hope to roll that out in 2020, 2025, I should say.
That's
With the
awesome.
school itself, we have expanded. We're in the process of working with a consultant. Our school is private, faith-based. And so we are going to be looking at national accreditation. Hopefully have all of our documents completed sometime in 2025 and be able to submit early part of 2026 for accreditation, which will give us an opportunity to offer associate degree programs along with our certificate programs
Wow.
and also bachelor programs. So that's kind of where we are now, and where we've been, and where we're moving to.
That's incredible. Now, where did this idea come from? Because this isn't your everyday concept for a business. Because we always hear there's a need for medical professionals, especially the CNAs and the phlebotomists, especially as our population grows older. There is a need for people to care for them and to provide routine medical care. But you don't see a lot of people starting ways to train it. So, how did this idea come about to make a business out of this?
It actually started with my wife. Um, she's a nurse by profession, and one of the things that she wanted to do when we had the home care side. So she really was really it started out as training people to work on the home care side. And so it started out with CNAs. And of course, on the home care side, we're actually going out into the homes. We're working with families, working with individuals. And it's really that crossroad. These are folks that are still having some health issues, but
Yeah.
they're not ready to go further into a nursing home or any type of assisted living facility. And so that's really where it got started. And it's crazy that we just started looking and we realized that there was an affordable way of being able to deliver allied health certificate programs without charging a lot of money. And so
Wow.
we really based our pricing is based really for folks who can really they can afford it, and then, of course, during COVID, the state of Mississippi lost about 50% of health professionals.
Wow.
And so we kind of started looking at what those professions were and opportunities that lie there. So again, that's really how it got started. And we're excited about where it's going. It did start out as a for-profit business, but we decided that we wanted to make it nonprofit to be able to look at grant opportunities.
Yeah.
And then because of our faith, we it was no doubt that because of our faith, we wanted it to be faith based. So that's when we had the nonprofit. So we have basically our board of trustees comes from the realm of K through 12 administrators, higher ed administrators, those from the faith base, those that are in public administration, public health, I should say. So that's what our board of trustees consist of people who are out here trying to improve health, and not only in the state of Mississippi, but beyond the state of Mississippi.
Now, one thing I think is interesting, and I talk about this a lot because I think this is very common. Because obviously, your wife Makiba has a background in nursing. You have a background in higher education. You can be spectacular in either one of those fields, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a great entrepreneur. A story I like to tell is a guest of this class is Dr. Angela Shannon in Flowood, who owns Happy Tummy's GI Clinic. She's one of the most successful doctors in the state of Mississippi in the South. But she said, when I opened a business, I had no idea what to do. So, what type of learning curve is there? Because you can be a spectacular employee and not a good entrepreneur. Because obviously, you have an unbelievable resume when it comes to higher education. Makiba had an unbelievable resume in nursing. How do y'all bring that together and learn the ins and outs of running a business?
Pains. um, the good thing about it, I think for me, because I was an administrator as a vice president in three different institutions, I had the responsibility of developing budgets, had the responsibilities of hiring individuals on so many different levels. And then I had to stay within the budget. And I'd be honest with you, it was definitely different from a budget standpoint at a Jackson State or even at a Lincoln University in Missouri as opposed to a Jarvis, where
Yeah.
Jarvis is private, Christian based, relies solely on tuition. And so I learned there. Sometimes, when you're setting up budgets, you really have to be very conservative with that. But yes, there's been some learning curves. I mean, there have been times where, our main goal is to make sure that our employees are taken care of, that they're able to go and take care of themselves and their families. And there have been times when we were always wondering, Lord, how are we going to make it through with ourselves because we're both full time into the business.
Yeah.
But so we've learned a lot. We've had um, I really would say good people around us. And I would say that for anybody starting a business, you need to have people who not looking for a dollar, but those mentors that can help you that have been in the business world, that can kind of help you from, hey, this is what you need to do, their accounts from an accounting standpoint,
Yep.
marketing standpoint. So those are the things that I think are key. And the thing that you have to realize, and it's kind of hard for a lot of small businesses, you can't be everything. You just can't. You have to utilize your expertise, and then you have to bring people on board that can help fill that gap. And I think that is the
Absolutely.
thing that we had to learn, was to bring people on board that could fill that gap. We're not great marketers, but we have a young lady that works with us as far as marketing our businesses and making sure that we're out there in social media and all those things. Our daughter is one that really helps us with the school standpoint of marketing our programs. And so you have to really, that's the other thing. You cannot be the all in all, because your expertise only takes you so far.
Yep.
From the home care side, I rely a lot on my wife and the folks that work for us. I know how the things should happen, but the expertise is there with them. I think on the school side, they look for me to
Yeah.
sort of guide that, because that's where my expertise is. And then on a number of the other businesses, it's just, it just depends. I mean, we have a testing site where we do drug and alcohol testing for pre-employment and employment. This was something the same daughter I was talking about brought to us and said, well, do you think we can do drug testing? We're like, "Mm, we don't know, but let's investigate." And we were able to investigate, and we had one major contract. So I just think that it's a really a team effort, and that's one of the things that I learned in education. That in education you really can't do it all, and you have to have that shared responsibility, or as term we use in education, shared governance, to make sure that you can make it all happen and be the best that you can be.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned about the accounting side because I think that is this, especially young people. That's the part they always seem to look over. Everybody sees the social media fun stuff, but they don't see the behind the scenes part. And I'm glad you mentioned also about finding partners. Now more than ever since COVID, there's more and more entrepreneurs that work with entrepreneurs. We have another friend of this class that literally all she does, she's an entrepreneur that does accounting for small businesses. So she handles all their books and all their finances when they don't understand it. And I'm glad you mentioned about the drug testing. And I think that's a business people don't understand is extremely lucrative and very affordable to get into right now. We had a guest last year from Macon, Georgia, who has made literally hundreds of thousands of dollars as a mobile drug tester, and she said her startup was less than $1,000.
Yeah, it
So
is.
if that's a business you want to
And
learn,
we
it's a
just
lot of
haven't.
work.
It is a lot of work, and we just have not expanded that. We have this one major contract, and we're looking at a second one. But again, yes, you have to work with other folk. And then, we have folks that I call them business developers. They kind of in their own professions and their own entrepreneurship, they're always talking to folk. And a lot of times they'll bring things to us and they say, hey, let me introduce you to so and so, so and so. And let's see if we can make this happen. To be honest with you, that's how we got the actual contract, the major contract we have with our drug testing is the fact that one of our folk that we do business partner with, he bought it to us, and he said, hey, I'm doing this and this for this company, but they need someone to assist them, and I know that you guys just started this. And so that's the other thing. You can't be shy about doing business with other folk
There
at
you go.
all. You cannot be shy.
There you go. And I'm so glad you, because so many people have said that because once we get done, they're going to be doing some presentations. And it's not to be mean or make them nervous, but that's something, skill you have to master, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not. But especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be comfortable communicating and you've got to be confident communicating because that goes so far in business. Now, one thing I did want to mention, because we'd be remiss if we didn't, before I get to the students' questions, obviously you've been at some unbelievable HBCU institutions. And I have several seniors in here with me today, and some of them have no interest in ever being an entrepreneur, and that's fine. Because I mean, obviously, I think a lot of entrepreneurial skills translate into being a great employee, and that's and we encourage that. Entrepreneurship, full-time entrepreneurship, is not for everybody. However, I do want to talk about the great experience and atmosphere that HBCU could bring. We have 7 great ones here in the state of Mississippi. I know you've been at one in Texas and in Missouri, as well as Jackson State. And obviously, we have some great PWI institutions in the state of Mississippi. But one thing I always want students to know they have options. You don't have to go to Mississippi State just because your friends do. You don't have to go to Ole Miss because you saw them play football on TV. I mean, nothing against either one of them because they have great programs. But HBCUs offer something different that other institutions do not. So as these kids start making college choices, why should they really consider some of the HBCUs not only here in Mississippi but across the country?
I think I really appreciate that question. As I said earlier, I actually grew up on an HBCU campus, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Really, from the standpoint of my mother used to take me to the nursing school program while she was in class, and so I literally grew up on that campus. But I have I think the biggest thing I have an appreciation for the history, and I say that I intentionally let me go back. When I graduated from Pine Bluff, I intentionally wanted to go um, to a school district that I felt that I could assist students and students would have more of an opportunity. So one of the things that I did when I went to Helena, West Helena, and the students don't know, that is the Delta of Arkansas, just like we
Yeah,
have Mississippi
right across from
Delta.
Greenville.
That's the Arkansas. That's right across the bridge. And so one of my goals when I went there was to be able to help recruit students who might not have an interest in college, that they could go to an HBCU and that HBCU would take them where they were and then be able to take that opportunity to advance them and then be able to see them graduate. When I went to Jackson State is really, I would say, one of the cream um, HBCUs in the country
Absolutely.
because of their engineering programs, their business programs. Matter of fact, they have an entrepreneurship degree from the College of Business. Um,
Led by my
and so
good
you
friend,
have
Dr. Shannon
students,
Simmons, or Sharon Simmons, who's
yeah,
been in this before as well.
right. So you have, but the thing about it, for some reason, you have students that are coming to Jackson State from the Midwest, the West, the East, and the Southeast, and they want to be there as opposed to a lot of the kids that grew up in Mississippi. I don't know if it's because it's home or what, but you find that you have a lot of students that appreciate that hands-on. They appreciate the professors being able to walk them through and make sure they're good. But I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was at Jarvis, that was when I realized that was who I was. Um, Jarvis is a open enrollment campus. A lot of the students that went to Jarvis barely got out of high school, but we put together programs and opportunities to take these kids from barely making it out to getting college degrees in 4 years, not five
Wow.
or six, but in 4 years. And it took a commitment from the students, but it was more so a commitment from the faculty and staff that work with them and work with their families in ensuring that they would graduate. So I'm a big time HBCU alum. I love HBCUs. My kids went to HBCUs, except for one. But she went to MC. She went to Mississippi College in Nursing.
Oh, cool. Oh, well, that's a great
But
nursing school.
it is. But now she's at an HBCU working her nurse prac. She's at Prairie
Oh,
View.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
She went to HBCU experience. So again, I think it's about HBCUs really working with students one on one. They're not a number, they're the individual, and then being able to take them wherever they are and however they got there to ensuring that they move forward and they have a huge success. And I think that is the difference. Nothing against my PWI sister institutions, but a lot of times if you're highly from an academic standpoint, you're good. But if you're a number and you are not used to just being that number, being in a class that might have 300 plus students in, that's what you're going to face, especially your larger PWIs. So I encourage people to really look at all of the HBCUs, even right here in the state of Mississippi. You got Jackson State, of course, you got Mississippi Valley, you got Alcorn, and then, of course, you have Rush College, you have Tougaloo. So,
And Hines
and
and
then even
Oklahoma
if
as
you
community colleges.
yeah, I was getting ready to just say that. Even if you want to go the 2 year route, you have Coahoma Community College and you have Hines Utica. So, you have many opportunities, but I think they're all on the same path of ensuring that they want you to be successful.
Absolutely. Now, and the last thing I'll say about that is I heard the president of Tougaloo, the former president of Tougaloo, say one time that historically black does not mean exclusively black. Enrollments
Oh,
at
no.
HBCUs across the country are getting more and more diverse. You look at Jackson State, they have blonde hair, blue eyed Europeans, they have them from South America. Um, Africa, Asia. So it really is a melting pot and a great place to really be cultured because I have so many kids say, I don't want to go to a black college. I went to a black high school. Well, just because you grew up around the same 40 people doesn't mean it's going to be like that. And then a quick
And it won't
story
be.
about PWI, and I tell this all the time. I don't think this much has heard it. I went to Madison Central High School. I had nearly 500 people in my graduating class. So I went to a huge high school. I was at Southern Miss, and I had a class with about 300 something people in it. There was a guy I had literally known my entire life in that class, and I did not know it until the last day. So it is that easy to get lost in the show.
It
So
really
that
is.
is a great point you brought up. But I do have some questions from the students, and I'll get to as many of these as I can.
Sure.
This first is Robert Branson. He's a senior, one of our football players here. And he asked, if you could go back in time and choose a different career path based on the knowledge you have now, would you have changed it?
Um, yes and no. I didn't major in education, so and we did not have a healthcare program. But I would probably had majored in education, just like my parents. Sometimes you try not to be like your parents, and you turn out to be like your parents. So if I had that change, I would have majored in education, and it just would have strengthened me more in what I ended up doing as a career. So that would have been the one change I would have done. Yes.
That's awesome. This is Anthony Walker. He's a senior, another one of our football players here. And he asked, "What is the?" Oh, and he actually has already started in operating his own small business, a clothing
Okay, great.
line called. He just went to the bathroom. I can't remember what he's called it. It's called Rebellious Rebel, I believe, or something like that. But he's already
Okay.
got the ground.
Okay.
Very entrepreneurial mind. I hate he's not here to hear me talk good about him, but I thought this is a good question. What is the long term goal for your business?
Well, so the long-term goal, um, we have multiple businesses, but we did establish the parent, which is B1 Healthcare Solutions Incorporated. Our goal is to push forward in all of our individual businesses, which of course will push forward the parent company. When you talk about the college, I mentioned our goal is to be able to become accredited, begin to be able to offer associate degree programs
Wow,
and bachelor degree programs
that's incredible.
in the next 6 years. Um, from a home care situation, I think our goal is really to look at expanding. We've come up with a couple of new products we call Home Care to Go, which is a way for people who might not qualify for VA or Medicaid, but they can still receive the same type of services. Um, Exclusive, our goal is really to expand that. We just want to start out slow, make sure we got everything. We've been all of our approvals done through MDOT and all of those things. So we're now ready to make expansions across the state with that. Majesty Living is one that is my baby that I love. It's my wife's baby too, but the goal is to really expand small, affordable living for primary veterans and seniors across the state,
Wow.
and look at a number of small areas across the state to do that. So that is the goal for that. And then our surprise one that's coming out this year, we look for that from a technology arm. We look for that to really take us to a whole nother level, not only throughout the state of Mississippi, but way really beyond that. So we're looking really forward to that one, launching that sometime in 2026. And so it's really, our goal is to be the best healthcare management company that we can be,
Wow.
one that serves the state of Mississippi first, and then that would be beyond the state of Mississippi next. So that's our goal. We want to be able to really go into areas where healthcare is not there, and that we can provide something for the citizens or for the community. So that's really our ultimate goal.
Yeah, and you the funny thing is I was going to ask two more questions, but you answered both of them, so that was really cool. But I'm glad one thing you did mention, and then we'll wrap up. But I really do appreciate the fact you talked about veterans in our state and some of the older crowd because I think a very common, and it's not a mistake, but it's just a mindset. A kid coming out of high school is going to be looking at selling toward people their age. They're going to be looking at selling to 20 something year olds and below. And I think the older crowd in our state and our country and our veterans get forgotten about a lot. And that's a great idea if you can think of a group that needs something that's not being marketed to. That is a not only are you serving your community, you're running a great business, which is extremely needed. So that is incredible that you guys have geared toward that. Now, we're almost out of
That's our
time.
passion.
We're almost out of time, and we thank you so much
Okay, sure,
for
no
being with us
problem.
today. But a couple things before we go. First of all, tell us where to find all the information on B1 if anybody's interested in enrolling in the school or using the services where they can find B1 online.
So if you go to College of Health Services and Careers, if you Google that, you'll pull up our website. Um, and so that will list all of our programs that we offer. If you're interested, and families interested in B1 nursing care, you go to b1nursingcare.org, and that's all that information is there. Really from there you connect it to everybody and to all the other businesses. So again, it's been a pleasure. Definitely in speaking to the class. I really I get a joy in working with students, especially when they're trying to make some decisions, and especially now that these students have um, somewhat indicated they're interested in being their own boss and being an entrepreneur. As long as they keep the faith, as long as they keep their head on strong, as long as they just keep pushing forward, it'll happen. It'll happen.
Well, and one last thing before we go. And I know they get sick of me saying this, but I just think this cannot be stressed enough, especially with Black History Month right around the corner. With the exception of one young lady in here with me, I have all young men in this room with me right now that's listening. And I cannot stress to them enough the importance of having more successful Black men in our community. So why is the need for more successful Black men, whether they go to college or not, so vital to the growth of our community here in Mississippi?
Um, we need to be the head of our households. Um, you know, the world was made. Yes, you can work as a team, but we need to be the head of our households. We need to be responsible, not only for ourselves, but for our families. And I think that is key in growing young men, to know, yeah, I get it, I understand, but the bottom line is that you got to be a difference in your community, and you got to make sure that if you don't have that role model, then you should make every effort. There are a lot of men who would love to serve as a role model for young men and to make sure that they're guided so that they can take care of themselves and they can take care of their families. Um, your significant other, your wife, your girlfriend, that's your helpmate. But that you still should be the head of your household.
Absolutely. And all these guys have just we have a lot of intelligence and a lot of talent in this room. I know they'll be um another in the long list of successful alums that have come through Velma Jackson. But we're out of time. We thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Marcus Chaney, B1 Health Services, right here in Jackson. We thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I wish all the young people good luck.
All right, thank you so much. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Bye bye.
See ya.